What is up, duelists? Arson Crofts once again bringing you your daily dose of Yu-Gi-Oh! GOAT format content. Today's feature match, we've got Mossblurg, that's my best guess at how to pronounce that one, versus Lord Carote. As always, both players rated in the top 200 of the Dueling Book GOAT format ladder at the time this match was played. Let's hop right into it. Looks like Lord Carote is going to take down that RPS, choose to go first, as is standard. And they will lead out with a Pot of Greed, so already going up a card. Quite nice. Following up with a Graceful Charity, so a little bit of double Trinity action, the GOAT format special. Let's see if they have any good discard fodder. They're going to discard a Blade Knight and a DD Warrior Lady, so likely playing a Warrior strategy here with two cards that are often played in that deck. They're going to go set 4 pass, a classic Warrior opening, likely have a Solemn Judgment here set, or just 2,000,000 chainables, which definitely could be the case. Interestingly, discarding 2 monsters, but this is a deck that plays like Call of the Haunted and Premature Burial, so monsters in the grave are not gone for good. And also, this is a deck that also gets a lot of its value by attacking with its monsters, so you don't actually always want to normal summon something turn 1 if you can't adequately protect it, because then it's just kind of a sitting duck, and you won't get any real value from it if you're unable to attack with it. A Mossblurg here. Got double Trinity'd here, but not duoed, so they're still at, 6 cards. Could have some Trinity of their own. Ooh, there is going to be a Trap Dust Shoot here out of Lord Carote, though. So they'll be able to see what a Mossblurg is running. Let's take a look at their hand. Interesting. So it looks like they're just running pretty standard Chaos Turbo stuff. Opening hand is Thunder Dragon, Kaiku, Chaos Sorcerer, Dekoichi, Spy, and a Dust Shoot of their own. So lots of Dust Shoot targets. I think the obvious one is probably Thunder Dragon, because that is their only light in hand. But of course, if you don't have any set monster hate, Spy or Dekoichi could both be annoying. If you're playing Warrior, definitely Spy is the more annoying of the two. So I can definitely see sending back that Spy, especially if you only have like one Nobleman of Crossout in hand. Kaiku is generally not too difficult for Warrior to deal with. Stuff like Blade Knight, DD Warrior Lady, lots of monsters are just kind of naturally bigger than the Kaiku. And Sork isn't live just yet, so you're probably not going to send it back. So I would think you're probably going to send back either Thunder Dragon or Spy, depending on how much monster removal you have available to you. So let's see what they choose. They choose the Thunder Dragon, so saying, all right, I think I can play through Spy just fine. Gonna send back that T-Drag, and now you know the opponent has a Trap Dust Shoot as well as a nice full group of monsters. Not too bad. And then, yeah, a Mossblurg is just going to go T-Set Pass, so set Dust Shoot, set Gravekeeper Spy. 90% of the time, that's what this is. Lord Carote playing with pretty much perfect information. Let's see what they can do with it, though. Gonna get to standby phase. Mossblurg is, of course, going to activate that Trap Dust Shoot. So we will get to see what both players are running now. Yeah, so Spy was set, of course. Lord Carote's hand, we've got Kaiku exiled, a Delinquent Duo, top deck, really nice. So full Trinity here, coming out by turn 2. Ooh, as well as a Mind Control. So main deck Mind Con out of Lord Carote. Makes me think that they're one of those warrior lists that likes to main deck Gravekeeper Spy, which is pretty nice. I mean, I guess a Mossblurg. Yeah, it was kind of 50-50 if they set Dekoichi or Spy here. Running out the Spy first is a little bit risky, honestly, because you're probably playing against Warrior. They didn't put back a set monster, so they probably have at least one out to a flip. In this case, we know it's Mind Control. So actually running out the Spy instead of the Dekoichi first is a little bit interesting. Because you'd assume if your opponent has an answer to it, it's going to be knock. And then if your Spies get knocked against Warriors, that's very, very advantageous for the Warrior player, because they are the beatdown deck, of course. So obviously, it's of course a mind game. Like, you don't want to 100% of the time always set Spy or always set Dekoichi first here. You probably want to like set Dekoichi maybe like 75-80% of the time, and every once in a while set the Spy. So not sure if a Mossblurg is just kind of playing that game theory optimal sort of strategy thing here, but they are probably going to get punished with Minecon on the Spy. Now, notably, I guess Minecon is not as big of a punish because they will get to keep their Spy, which is actually kind of nice. Looks like Lord Carote. Actually, so I should remember. Lord Carote does have the Exiled Force here, so they do have 2 answers to set monsters. But they saw that a Mossberg had a Dust Shoot in hand, so the Exiled Force is probably going to get stolen here, if I had to guess. Duo is going to be pretty strong, though, regardless. Yeah, so if you're a Mossberg, I think you probably have to take the Exiled here, so they have to Minecon your Spy, because then at least you get the defense position Spy back at the end of the turn and can maybe wall stuff out. Like, all they have is Kaiku, as far as you know. So that's probably the play here, and you're actually not in a terrible spot, as long as the Spy can stick around. That's how strong resolving a Spy against Warrior is. Unless they have, like, Roto for Ninja Grandmaster, but it's clear that Lord Kurote does not. So yeah, Exile gets sent back. Duo probably shortly following here from Lord Kurote. Yep. See what they hit. They hit the Chaos Sorcerer. Okay, not bad. That was dead for the moment, but obviously quite a strong card. And Mossberg is going to discard the Dekoichi, which now basically means 100% of the time this set is Spy. If you're Lord Kurote, so you know kind of exactly what you're playing with. It was already pretty much always going to be Spy, but could have been the Dekoichi, but now you know it's not. And it's almost never going to be the Kaiku. Interestingly, a Mossberg, you know you're playing against Warrior, but you're keeping your Kaiku in hand, which is not a very, very good card in the matchup. So honestly, I would have preferred probably pitching that to do. Although Dekoichi isn't really great either, is the unfortunate thing. And you could maybe guess with the double discard here, maybe they have like a Call of the Haunted set, and Blade Knight running over your Dekoichi is obviously really bad. Yeah, so I think this game is really going to hinge on if a Mossberg can get their Spy to stick around or not and draw back up and kind of get rid of some of this advantage that Lord Kurote opened. Otherwise, it's just, they're just going to run right over them. Of course, completing Trinity on turn 2, definitely helping Lord Kurote here. Let's see what the play is. You're just going to go normal summon Kaiku, going to activate the Minecon. Flip summon Spy. Does not have a Spy in the deck of their own, so not a big fan of main deck Minecon in Warrior if you're not also main decking Gravekeeper Spy. Makes Minecon a lot worse. But it at least will allow them to push in some damage with this Kaiku and banish the graveyard. So there's some value there. Yeah, banish a couple darks. Oh, and we do have Call of the Haunted here. You probably want to grab DD Warrior Lady here, right? I don't know. So that's what's weird about this play. I mean, it depends on what your other sets are. But you need to find a way to get through this Spy soon. And Call of the Haunted for DD Warrior Lady is definitely a way to do that, right? Call of the Haunted for Blade Knight is obviously max damage here, and it's good against the Kaiku that's in the Mossblurt's hand. But Blade Knight cannot get through Spy without help. So potentially using this Call of the Haunted a little bit early. But I like punching in for damage when you know your opponent doesn't have much going on. We'll just see if they maybe should have held this here. Because, you know, prio number 1, if you're playing Warriors, figure out how to get around Spy is kind of the way I think about it. Blade Knight's going to come through, though, hit the opponent for 2k. Spy's going to go back to a Mossblur's side of the field. They draw for turn. Going to go ahead and normal summon that Kaiku. We got Solemn Judgment from Lord Kurote. We're just going to Solemn the Kaiku. Okay, so surely if you're doing this, you have an out to the Spy such that you can kill them next turn or get close to killing them next turn. Otherwise, you're probably fine letting the Kaiku's trade, right? Because you probably only do this if you want to get maximum damage in. But now, unless you have another Solemn, you're at risk of like Mirror Force being a thing, perhaps. And if all you have is 2 Solemns, then that means you have no outs to Spy, and you're just going to be walled out for a while here. So let's see. Whatever this last... Okay, so Ring on the Spy. Ring on the Spy is the play. I like it. In which case, I'm not sure if you really needed to Solemn the Kaiku, because trading Kaikus and then you're just left with the Blade Knight beating in every turn is fine, and you'd probably rather Solemn to protect the Blade Knight. But this is definitely the most aggressive possible play, and you could just say, okay, I'm going to not believe my opponent has Mirror Force, which is totally fine. Ring on Spy here is really strong, though. Mossblur will drop to 3k, meaning that Kaiku plus Blade Knight is lethal here, which I guess is part of the reason of the whole Solemn the Kaiku thing, was because this does set up lethal. It's just now this back row is a little bit scary. Let's see what the play is, though. We're just going to get in for 18. Okay. Get to banish the grave again, which is nice, and then his Blade Knight game. Okay. Yeah, ends up not mattering. just using the Solemn super aggressively to make sure they could set up lethal that turn, saying if you have Mirror Force, you have Mirror Force. Having the Ring for the Spy, which makes the Call of the Hunted on the Blade Knight play for maximum aggression really makes sense. So Lord Karote just being as aggressive as possible, basically that game. Opened full Trinity, so very much up on cards, could afford to kind of just throw away stuff, even if a Mossberg had optimal defense. But Warrior taking it down pretty easily in game 1, thanks to that full Trinity opening, of course. Game 2, a Mossberg will be able to go first. Let's see if they keep those Kaikus in. Probably unlikely to see that. Like I said, not the strongest card in the matchup. They're gonna lead out with a card destruction, just a right off the rip. Okay, filling up the grave. They're gonna discard. What a hand this is. Okay, so they had a Night Assailant in hand, so that makes sense. That makes this card destruction essentially free. Cyberjar in Chaos Turbo is not something you see every day. Kind of some spicy tech. Definitely, yeah, definitely interesting. You get to choose now with this Night Assailant if you want the Spy or the Jar. I mean, against Warrior, Spy is a lot more valuable, I would think, right? Unless you just want Cyberjar for the, board wipe. But, like, resolving Cyberjar against Warrior doesn't actually feel that good. I mean, it's interesting. Okay, so Warrior really likes... I guess Cyberjar is one of those high variance cards, right? And short term, Warrior plays a lot of normal summonable monsters, and a lot of the time they're probably going to be activating Cyberjar in their battle phase when they're attacking over it, right? In which case, it's pretty likely that they're going to spin into a lot of monsters that can then immediately attack you during that battle phase, which is pretty scary if you're like low on life or something like that. However, if you survive the initial Cyberjar spin, or if Warrior doesn't hit multiple threats or whatever, then the game state is super duper far from simplified, which is like the opposite of what Warrior wants, right? Warrior is a deck that's built to stick a threat, protect it, trade off resources 1-for-1 with like MSTs and etc., such that the fact that they have board control and pressure matters more, right? That's more effective when there are less cards in play, right? A Blade Knight beating in every turn is a lot stronger when that's the only card on the field, rather than you're up a card, but you have 5 cards in hand and your opponent has, 5 cards in hand as well, and your Blade Knight is the +1. So Cyberjar from that perspective seems good against Warrior because it just really complicates the game state, which definitely favors the Chaos player in this scenario. But Spy is just so good against Warrior in general. Yeah, I mean, luckily you at least get to see what 5 cards you draw off this card destruction before you have to make the call, so it's probably going to depend on that. But yeah, just firing straight off the rip is pretty interesting, and we'll see if it ends up favoring them. Or Karote, we'll see what they had in their hand. Hitting some decent stuff. You hit a knock, which is nice to know about. You hit Ring, a Rhoda, a Book of Moon, and an Exiled. Cool. So not a bad one. Unfortunately, you didn't hit any Trinity. Part of the value, or the value prop of just firing off a card destruction turn 1 when you have no Trinity in hand, as Mossberg clearly did not, is that there's a good chance that you will hit Trinity in your opponent's hand. But unfortunately, Lord Karote also did not have the best opening hands. I mean, it's not a bad opening hand, it just didn't have Pot or Graceful or Duo exactly, right? But now both players having pretty much an equal chance to draw into some Trinity here because neither of them opened it. It's a little bit of a gamble here from the Mossberg. We will see if it pays off. See what this Night Assailant grabs. Choice between Spy or Cyberjar. Definitely going to depend on what else is in your hand. Spy is definitely the safe choice. Cyberjar is the spicy choice. And just going to grab Spy back, saying, okay, conservative. I like what's in my hand. I don't think I need more than a Spy to win this game. I think that's fair. Found a Thunder Dragon here as well, so already has Chaos online. Light and Dark and Grave. Grab a couple copies of that TD. And then they're going to set a monster pass. Very well could be that Spy. It's a little bit safer now that one knock is gone, but Lord Karote was main decking Minecons, so they probably have one more knock and then at least one, probably 2 more Minecons in the deck. So definitely would not be surprised if a Mossberg went for a little bit of a bait here with this set monster, but we'll see. Lord Karote drew into a Blade Knight off of card destruction. Just going to go crash that in. It's just 1600, but it is the lone monster on their side of the field, so it will negate flip effects if it attacks in here. So making the bet that this is not Gravekeeper Spy, notably. And it is just that spy. Okay, so Mossberg not going for any sort of bait. Obviously, we don't know if they could have set something else at all. But considering that they didn't play any back row, they likely have a lot of monsters in hand. So Lord Korote just going in, crashing that Blade Knight into the Spy. This will resolve for a Mossblurg. And now, with a Spy fully resolving, you now have two 2,000 defense walls in front of you. And a Mossblurg is now in a really, really good spot thanks to that. Let's see what the follow play. No, we're just going to pass with the Lone Blade Knight on board. So yeah, Mossberg in a really good spot here. Having resolved Spies. Found their Thunder Dragon already. Pretty nice. They found a duo here as well, so going to rip a couple cards out of Lord Korote's hand. And now they can start kind of grinding away, sitting behind these Spies, exactly what Chaos Turbo likes to do. They hit a Kaiku, which is huge. They're going to discard a Breaker, sure. I think discard Breaker makes sense when your opponent has not set any back row yet this game, so who knows? Because who knows when you're going to be able to use Breaker. And they likely top decked Duo, right? So they probably don't have any more back row. And they're okay, so they're going to set a monster, set a back row pass. So you got to think, what would they have set now that they wouldn't have set last turn? Not a Torrential Tribute. Not a, I mean, honestly, no clue. In a standard Chaos Turbo list, what are you setting now that you didn't set last turn? Maybe... Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Lord Korote here. Just going to set a couple back row and then activate Swords of Revealing Light to flip up a Mossblurg's monster. It is just a Sinister Serpent, so interesting set there. Makes it... I was thinking that, like, I don't know, maybe it's like a Raigeki break, but if you're setting Serpent here, it's probably not. Lord Korote can, of course, just go ahead and kill that Serpent. But yeah, you see the power of Gravekeeper Spy here against aggro matchups. Can just wall you out forever. And Lord Korote keeping in Swords post side against Chaos Turbo definitely doesn't seem great. Because if you're ever in a position where you need to Swords to stay alive, you're probably already losing that game, right? You are the beatdown deck. You don't want to be playing random anti-aggro cards that don't really do much for you. So Mossblurg in a really good spot here. Your opponent's kind of playing some suboptimal cards here as well. I hope they didn't keep the Swords off of that duo, right? You probably would rather have Breaker, just in case they draw back row. We're going to get Trap Dust Shoot here out of Lord Korote, which is interesting. So we'll see what's in a Mossblurg's hand. They have the double Thunder Dragon. They have Faith with Card D and Grave, which is nice to pair with your Thunder Dragon. And they have a Tribe Infecting Virus, which is just a really good card against tribal decks. Of course, it's right there in the name. So pretty strong hand. Setting Serpent, I hope they just top deck. I mean, I guess because you have the Thunder Dragons in hand, you don't need to keep Serpent in hand for the tribe, but it's more optimal. I guess maybe potentially setting a Serpent to try and bait out any set interaction is the idea. But you know Lord Korote doesn't have any, otherwise they wouldn't have just crashed the Blade Knight into Gravekeeper Spy, probably. Right? Well, there is a chance that they are hoping... They're banking on the Blade Knight effect, negating the flip it so that they could save their knock for something else later. Either way, interesting plays here so far from the Mossblurg. I'm really curious to see what their set card is. But if you're Lord Korote... I mean, putting back a Faith is annoying because they just have another Faith. You probably put back Tribe just so they can't really, you know, do Tribe stuff, right? Because that actually answers your board. Faith for Cardi is, like, fine, I guess. And sending back one Faith, they still have the second one, so it's not really the most amazing thing. Let's see. Yeah, send back Tribe, I think, makes the most sense. You know, your opponent just has a bunch of Magician of Faiths in hand. Now, Lord Korote making the interesting play last turn not to attack the Serpent with their Blade Knight. But, I mean, I guess you'd probably just rather the Serpent be on field for the most part. That way it can't be in hand to get discarded to stuff like exactly Faith for card destruction or for Tribe Infecting Virus, for example. Another reason why this set Serpent doesn't really make too much sense for me is if you have Faith in Grave and your best target is card destruction, you definitely want Serpent in hand to use for it, right? Because card D'ing when your hand is Serpent, Double Thunder Dragon, whatever, is really powerful. So Mossblurg not really playing to... I mean, they can afford to wait for a while to do stuff because they have these Spies and they're the control deck in this matchup. But I feel like going for the Faith play would be quite strong here, because it's very unlikely that Lord Kurote has any way of stopping it. Well, I guess you would need an out to the Blade Knight. Right, so maybe this set is not an out to the Blade Knight, not a Mirror Force, not a Sakuretsu or anything. But I definitely like trying to play towards that if you can. Lord Kurote gonna draw for turn, still super duper walled out here. It's gonna set a back row pass. Swords is ticking away, even though it's literally not doing anything, but that is what it is. Mossberg going to set a monster here, so do you have an out for Blade Knight? Or are you just being a little tricky? Let's see, Lord Kurote has a premature burial here for Exiled Force, most likely, so that they can pop that set monster and prevent at least one Magician of Faith from coming through, I guess is the idea. Now, interestingly, not going for the Blade Knight attack play, trying to play around Sakuretsu armor or something, I guess it's fine. Oh, you hit a Kinetic Soldier. Okay, interesting. So Mossberg being a little bit cute, saying, you know, if I'm going to set Magician of Faith, you can just attack it with the Blade Knight, but run it into my Kinetic and take a bunch of damage, please, is the idea. But Lord Kurote not taking the bait. Premature for Exile, going to come through, deal with that. And now Lord Kurote still has, like, perfect information, right? You know the hand is double Faith, double Thunder Drag. And then Lord Kurote is going to set another back row and pass. Second turn of Swords here. Not like it matters. I'm just going to pass turn. Totally fine. You're going to go up an extra card in a turn anyway, so no reason to really force the issue. Lord Kurote just going to top deck a Kaiku and normal summon it. Turning off Chaos, which is fine. Just using it for its Floodgate effect. But yeah, really needs to find an out for these spies, otherwise it's not going to be looking too good. And a Mossberg just continuing to draw cards, complicate the board state. Exactly what you want to be doing as a turbo player in this matchup. So it's Pro Set Heavy Storm. Okay, so that makes sense to me. I guess that's probably the only card that maybe you don't set and then set later. And I didn't think about that. But Heavy Storm makes a lot of sense. That's going to come through. You got to hope Lord Kurote has a Solemn Judgment. But they likely do. No, they do not have a Solemn Judgment. And Heavy Storm is just going to completely destroy their position. Not that it was very good to start. Wow. See a little bit of spicy side deck tech in the Deck Devastation Virus, which is kind of neat. But wow, just setting your whole hand with no Solemn to protect from Heavy Storm is very risky, and they got punished for it. And it's not even like... It's extra risky, right? Because you're not actually making any progress. And the more you sit here, the more likely it is a Mossberg is going to draw into Heavy Storm, right? And, you know, I guess the benefit is that it prevents your opponent from going Faith, flip up, grab Duo, and rip stuff out of your hand, which is annoying. And it does power up your Blade Knight, although that's not super duper relevant based on what a Mossberg's got in hand. I mean, I guess the idea is you are kind of worried about Tribute Sinister for Thunder Dragon trade with the Blade Knight, so keeping the Blade Knight at 2k is kind of important. But is that more important than playing around Heavy Storm? Dubious, right? And they get punished here. The Mossberg in just an insane advantage state here. They have a Kaiku here to trade with the other Kaiku. That's fine, turning on their own Chaos. Wouldn't be surprised to see like a Chaos Sorcerer or something come down and banish this Blade Knight as well. Would be really strong. Keep Lord Kurote off of lights. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to see. Sork comes down, banishes the Blade Knight. Attack position Sork, or defense position Sork is a little bit risky against Warrior because they do play Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke. And they do probably play 3 copies of those, considering, you know, that we haven't seen, I guess 2 at this point because we've seen 1 Rhoda hit the grave. And Ninja Grandmaster is kind of the best card for Lord Kurote to draw at this point anyway because it deals with the spies as well. So continuing to play into Ninja Grandmaster is a little bit of an interesting choice, but it probably won't get punished for it at this point. And even if they do, they're up so many cards that it probably doesn't matter, right? Lord Kurote going to draw Minecon just to banish the Sork. Sure, totally fine. We're going to start beating in with the spies. 2,400 a turn. Nice clock here. Don't really care. All looking good. Set a back row pass, or set a monster pass. Lord Kurote has a Zombira here, which is, once again, not what I would have expected to have sided in against Chaos Turbo. It does kill a single spy, which is nice, but it doesn't actually pressure their life points, which is what you want to be doing as the warrior player. So some interesting choices here. We'll be able to kill at least one spy, which is kind of nice. But a Mossberg, definitely had that possibility in mind. Very likely that Lord Kurote was just going to top deck a monster that could kill one of these spies. But getting in for the damage while you can totally makes sense to me. Set monster likely Magician of Faith here as well. Would love to see... I mean, if you want to super min-max, you could go Tribute for Thunder Dragon and set it up at a later turn, right? Or you could just, maybe go for a game shot here. Definitely super possible. Now we're going to get Flip Up Faith, Faith grab card D. Let's see how they want to play this. Normal summon Kinetic Soldier, activate card D, try to find BLS for game. And yeah, that was pretty close to dead anyway, and Lord Kurote was just so super far behind. Really didn't have any outs at that point. Yeah. Really basically going exactly to game plan there for a Mossberg in game 2. Set up a spy wall really early. Lord Kurote had no outs to it. And then was just able to draw up a bunch of cards. Lord Kurote unfortunately played into Heavy Storm, had their entire board decimated by that card, setting their hand without having a Solemn to protect it, which is quite risky. But even before that point, things were very much trending in Chaos Turbo's favor, just because Warrior was unable to find an out to the spies anyway. So we'll go to game 3 here, though. Warrior will be able to go first, which is quite nice for them. Would like to see a little bit more aggressive side deck cards coming in, though. Not sure what Zambira and Swords of Revealing Light are really doing here. I guess Zambira could be good against opponent Zambiras, right? Because Turbo does often side into Zambiras of their own to deal with, because they're just good against beatdown monsters, just to control the board. So maybe the idea is you side in your own Zambiras to answer your opponent's Zambiras, which I guess is fine. It was the Swords that's a little bit more dubious, I guess. Lord Kurote going to lead out with the Graceful Charity here, though. So opening a Trinity Pierce here. This is how they won game 1, of course. They're going to discard a Blade Knight and a Goblin Attack Force. Not a card that you always see in traditional warrior lists, but is really good. Can deal with Chaos Sorcerer in either attack or defense position. Is just a big amount of damage in one card. Can kill spies as well. Pretty nice. Well, they're just going to pass, though. So just firing off the Graceful for a little bit of card filtration and then having no play. So that's the play of a desperate duelist, right? And if I'm a Mossberg, I am smelling blood, and I might start getting aggressive here if I can. Let's see what the play is, though. We're going to go normal summon Kaiku. Yeah, get in for 18. Now, keeping in Kaiku post-side against Warrior is also a little bit dubious, I will say, because it's not good against Blade Knight, not good against Goblin Attack Force. You're not really the one who wants to be attacking most of the time, but depending on the 55, I guess it's fine. They do happen to play BLS. It can trade with some monsters, so could be decent from that perspective. It is going to get a lot of value here by banishing Lord Kurote's Grave, though. Removing all revival targets, as well as removing their Light Engrave for potential BLS action. So pretty high value Kaiku here in this scenario. And going to set it back right here to potentially protect it. So really good starting for Mossberg. Lord Kurote seems to have bricked even after resolving this Graceful Charity, and so getting aggressive right off the bat definitely makes sense to me. Lord Kurote has a Breaker here. So interesting choice. You could have gone for Breaker, kill the Kaiku, then pop the set for maximum value. But we're just going to go Breaker, pop the set first, and then your Kaiku's lower, or your Breaker is lower than attack than the Kaiku, so you gotta hope you have like a Snatch Steal or something, maybe. So Breaker will pop the set, hits a Dust Tornado, show me the Snatch Steal. No, we're just gonna set a back row pass. And this is one of those points where Lord Kurote could have pretty easily. I mean, it is kind of risky. But I do like, and hindsight of course is 2020, but I do feel like this is probably one of those scenarios where it's good to, if you don't have like the Snatch Steal follow-up or anything, it's probably good to try and kill the Kaiku and then pop the set. Because if you run into like a Sokka or something, it's not the end of the world. You're still trading 1-for-1, right? And here you're just kind of a sitting duck for this Kaiku, unless you have like a random Sakuretsu armor to answer it, which could be the case. Mossberg here has this Breaker staring down at them, although their Kaiku is controlling the board at the moment. Heavy Storm here for a Mossberg, paving the way for a potential Kaiku attack. It is set Book of Moon. Okay, so that was the play. The plan was to book the Kaiku to protect the Breaker, and then Breaker could kill it later. So I guess going for a delayed +1 here is fine. We'll see if, Mossberg could just easily have another thing to kill the Breaker, though. Well, yeah. Yeah, so I guess Heavy Storm actually working out perfectly here, right? Because the plan was Book of Moon the Kaiku during battle phase so that it couldn't attack. But Heavy forcing it to come out first such that you can just go ahead and flip summon the Kaiku and kill the Breaker for free. So Heavy getting a lot of value here, paving the way for recuperating the lost card advantage after the Breaker popping the Dust Tornado. When we have a second Kaiku coming out here as well to make sure that they don't get to keep that Dark Engrave and to apply maximum damage. So double Kaiku post side against Warrior is working out. Maybe I'll eat my words after this match. Gonna hit in for a ton of damage, banish that Breaker. Got a 2-turn clock on board. No back row though, so a lot of stuff in Lord Kurote's deck that could potentially deal with this. We'll see what they have in hand. Tribe Infecting Virus is a very effective way of dealing with this. Kaiku's both spellcasters. So we're going to go Tribe, discard a Kaiku of our own is interesting. To pop both of those Kaikus, okay. Oh, and then we have Premature Burial to revive that Kaiku. So this is a really, really strong play. Tribe, discard Kaiku, calling Spellcaster to wipe your opponent's boards, get a nice 2-for-1. And then it also gets a monster in grave so that your Premature Burial is turned on. And that monster is Kaiku, which can then banish your opponent's grave, removing their darks, making them miles away from chaos, and applying tons and tons of pressure here. So really strong turn here from Lord Kurote. Had a bit of a speed bump with like the Heavy Storm on their Book of Moon, but now they're in very solid control of this game, I think, at this point. Mossberg definitely not out of it just yet, but this was a pretty crazy turn of events. Lord Kurote has a back row here to protect their stuff, potentially. Mossberg has a Graceful Charity, though, which is quite nice. Just trying to find an out to this board. Ooh, Solemn Judgment of Lord Kurote is huge. They'll drop down to 1,700 life points, but I definitely like the Solemn here. Because you just want to go all in on this, right? You don't want them to find anything to answer it. I like that play. Mossberg just going to set a monster pass. We haven't seen any Mind Cons or knocks out of Lord Kurote yet, so this could be a pretty big turn here for Lord Kurote. Ooh, Mystic Swordsman level 2 is a perfect answer here as well. We're going to go in, beat over there. Mystic Swordsman effect triggers. Ooh, and it kills a Gravekeeper Spy. That is huge to force through maximum damage, prevent the Spy from resolving, which we saw put Mossberg in just a basically unlosable position last game. And it clears the way for your Kaiku and Tribe to get in for damage again. Kaiku will be able to banish the Spy once more. You get to pass with lethal on board and an out to any set monster that they want to put in the way. Really crazy couple turns here for Lord Kurote, just ratcheting up the tempo of this match. And yeah, really, really solid position at this point. Mossberg, you gotta find like a Ring of Destruction is like really your only out. I mean, I guess Snatch Steal is good. Ring to tie the game is good. Mirror Force could be good depending on what Lord Kurote has in hand. But your number of outs are limited here. Kinetic Soldier is not that great. Because weirdly enough, you're playing against Warrior, but 2 of the monsters they have on board are not Warriors. So it can beat over the Mystic Swordsman, but that's about it. We're going to go ahead and go for that play. Oh, is this just game, though? Oh, because Mystic Swordsman is a 900 attack point monster. So Kinetic Soldier's effect boosts up to 3350. Oh, wow. So yeah, this is just lethal. Holy moly, what a card to I don't know if they had that in their hand the whole time, but that is insane. Lord Kurote finding a monster, finding an out to deal with the Gravekeeper Spy, force through this damage, but it actually set up for a lethal push with exactly Kinetic Soldier from a Mossberg, and this is just game. This is just game, right? What a crazy way to just pull the rug out from Lord Kurote. They thought they did everything right, that they had the perfect combination of monsters to deal with the opponent, but very rarely do you see Mystic Swordsman's low attack points being such a detriment, such a downside to the card as you do in this exact scenario when you're low on life and a kinetic soldier is coming home to roost. And wow, a Moskblurg with finding one of the very few outs in their deck. I was talking about trying to like hold on for a draw. Little did I think of Kinetic Soldier beat over Mystic Swordsman for game. That is insane. 2-1, a Moskblurg takes it down over Lord Karote. The reverse sweep, Chaos Turbo against Warrior. You see the power of Kinetic Soldier in the matchup. Designed to beat Warriors and just doing it amazingly here. And that was crazy. Let's see what's in both players' hands. Oh, and Lord Karote had a mind control. Oh no, they didn't have to go for the Mystic Swordsman play last turn. They could have mind controlled. Oh man. That's such a feels bad moment. But they, you know what? You gave the opponent one card to win the game with, and they found it and they used it. And sometimes you just gotta play it safe, I guess, right? I mean, we didn't know that Moskva was running kinetic because we saw it, I think, last game. Ah, they're gonna want to take that one back, of course. Like I said, always say hindsight is 2020. But just maybe not giving them credence or not. I mean, like I didn't think that kinetic soldier for a game was a thing that was gonna happen there. But clearly wasn't out for a Mossberg, and they had it. And yeah, just taking it down. Wow. Crazy sequence of events. What an insane game 3. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Yeah, this was crazy. Really cool games, really fun decks, really nice plays by both players. Hope you guys liked it. I will catch you all next time.